I held the folder, still warm from the hospital's printer. Daniel's death certificate. Time of death: 3:42 a.m. Cause: cardiac arrest. We were married for 9 years. I watched him go. I kissed his forehead goodbye, and then I drove home. Alone. The sun hadn't even risen yet. But when I reached the front door, my key didn't work. I twisted it again, then harder. The lock had been changed. At first, I thought I was at the wrong house, but then I heard laughter. Inside, clinking glasses, music, like a party, and then I saw her, Eleanor, Daniel's mother, still in her black pearls and red lipstick, holding a mimosa. She opened the door just wide enough for her words to fit. "You don't live here anymore, sweetheart," she said. "This house belongs to his family now. Some doors close louder than others. If you've ever been locked out of a home, a family, or just the truth, stay. This one's for you." I stared at her. I could still taste the hospital air. And here she was, already moved in. Boxes, chairs, my wedding photo, gone. The funeral hadn't even been planned. But she was celebrating. That's when it hit me. This wasn't grief. This was a takeover. And they'd been waiting, so I said nothing. I just pulled out one piece of paper, tucked inside the folder. The one document Eleanor never thought I'd have. The one with my name, not Daniel's, not hers, mine. She blinked. Once. And for the first time that night, her mouth didn't move. I didn't say another word. Because this wasn't the end. It was the opening move. And you'll see why Eleanor should have read the prenup before pouring that mimosa. If you've ever watched someone rewrite your story without asking, stick around. You're not alone. Drop a comment, because this story might just be yours too. The funny thing is, Daniel's family thought I had nothing. They always looked at me like I was temporary, like I'd expire when he did. They didn't know that 2 years ago, Daniel and I made a quiet choice. After his second hospital stay, after his heart almost gave out on a flight back from Denver, we sat on the porch with his lawyer, and we signed a postnuptial agreement, not for spite, not because we were planning to split, but because he knew exactly what his mother was like. He didn't want her name anywhere near our home, or our savings, or the dog we rescued together. I never mentioned it, not once, not even to Chloe, his sister, who treated me like a guest in my own marriage. But that paper, that quiet signature on the last page, it changed everything. Daniel left me the house, the land, the bank accounts, and a separate note. "If they try anything, use this. You earned everything." They just watched. It wasn't long, just 2 sentences, taped to the back of the agreement. But I read it 10 times. Then I folded it, put it in my pocket, and walked back to the front door. Eleanor was still inside, pouring more champagne, talking too loudly. I didn't ring the bell, I didn't knock, I just smiled. Because I wasn't coming back to fight. I was coming back to claim. It happened the next morning. I had called a locksmith, replaced every screw, every hinge, every lock. By law, the house was mine, but the memories, they were shared. I found a photo of Daniel's high school graduation tucked behind the bookshelf, a ribbon his mother had saved. I left them all in a box by the door. I wasn't cruel, but I was done. Then came the knock, not a soft one, a pounding. Eleanor and Chloe stood outside, lipstick redder, eyes darker. "We're here to collect what's ours," she said. "Not Daniel's, mind you. Ours." I handed her the box. She looked down like I had spit in it. And then she said it, loud, with teeth. "You are just the incubator. You don't get to keep what came from our bloodline. Blood may run deep. But ink on paper? Ink lasts forever. Some think blood is thicker. Others think vows mean more. What do you believe? Drop it below." For a moment, I didn't breathe. Because in that instant, she wasn't just insulting me. She was erasing me. 9 years, 3 surgeries, 1 miscarriage. Countless quiet nights holding his hand. And none of it meant a thing to her. To her, I was a stand-in, a phase, a vessel, nothing more. I wanted to scream, to defend myself, to remind her who stayed beside Daniel when he cried in the shower, when he couldn't lift his spoon, when he forgot the year. But I didn't. Instead, I said, if I was just the incubator, why is your name nowhere on the title? She flinched, because cruelty is always louder than truth. But truth lasts longer. Chloe looked away. She didn't agree. But she didn't stop her either. That was enough. I closed the door, but her words stuck. Not because they were true, but because I know this happens every day, to women like me, to widows who aren't seen as wives, to women who are expected to vanish when the man they loved is no longer here to vouch for them. But Daniel vouched, in ink, in law, in the life we built. And they would learn. I wasn't the one who didn't belong. They were. The house was quiet again, empty, cold in a way it had never been, even in winter. I moved through it like a ghost, touching furniture that suddenly didn't feel like mine, even though I'd chosen every piece. The couch where Daniel proposed, the hallway where we argued about paint colors, the corner shelf where he always forgot to water the plant, I eventually replaced with fake ones. This was our house, but now it felt like a museum of something already gone. I started boxing things, not because I was leaving, but because I needed to reclaim it. Every drawer they touched, every cabinet they opened. And that's when I found it, buried under old birthday cards, in the bottom drawer of his desk, a yellow envelope, no stamp, no address, just one word written in his hand. In case. My fingers shook as I opened it. Inside was a letter, 4 pages, folded twice, ink slightly smudged. The handwriting was his, messy, rushed, but undeniably Daniel. If you're reading this, then something happened. I don't know when or how, but I need you to hear this from me, not them. You were never a placeholder, never someone I settled for, never the easy choice. You were the only choice. I know how my mother is, and how Chloe became her echo. I've seen the way they look at you, like you're an outsider to a kingdom you helped build. I'm sorry for every time I didn't defend you out loud. It killed me every time they dismissed your kindness, your effort, your sacrifices. I watched you hold me together through sickness, stress, surgeries, and all the things no one else saw. They want my name. You had my soul. I stopped reading, not because I couldn't handle it, but because for the first time in weeks, I let myself sob. Not the quiet tears I'd been choking back. Not the polite, socially acceptable sadness, but the kind of grief that sounds like rage, like truth finally finding air. He knew. All the nights I stayed up worrying he didn't see what I did. All the mornings I stood beside his mother, biting my tongue. All the dinners where I smiled through the insult, he knew everything. I finished the letter. The last line? I couldn't always protect you in life, so I tried to in paper. He had attached a copy of the POSTNUP, a second copy, hidden from everyone, with his initials on every page, and at the bottom of the last page, he'd drawn a tiny heart. Just like the one he used to write on sticky notes. Just like the one he drew on our bathroom mirror with steam after his first surgery. Just like the one he traced on my back when we danced in the kitchen, barefoot with the dog barking at our feet. I held the paper to my chest, and for the first time since the hospital, I felt real again. This wasn't just a legal document. It was a love letter, a shield, a quiet scream across time. I saw you, and now it was my turn to make sure the world did too. I came home from the lawyer's office to find the jewelry box open. Not just open, empty. No wedding ring. No necklace Daniel gave me on our 5th anniversary. No tiny earrings his grandmother had passed down to me after one particularly tender Thanksgiving. Gone. The velvet lining inside the box looked like a hollow casket. At first, I thought it was a mistake. Maybe the movers had packed them. Maybe I'd misplaced them. But then I opened the hallway closet. The coat was missing. The blue one Daniel always said made me look like October. The purse I never even liked but kept because he bought it on a layover. Even the guest towels, gone. I checked the garage. His tools, my bike, our camping gear, all gone, sold, traded, disappeared. All while I was meeting with our estate lawyer. All while I was finding the paperwork that should have protected me from this. I called Chloe. No answer. I texted Eleanor. She replied. 4 words. You're grieving. Let it go. Let it go. They took my wedding ring. That wasn't just gold. It was the moment he asked me to grow old with him. The moment we laughed in the rain outside that tiny diner. The moment I said yes through tears. They took it like it meant nothing, like it was pawnable. But you know what they couldn't take? The deed. Because when I showed up to the county recorder's office with Daniel's signed, notarized, and filed documents, the clerk didn't blink. My name was there, right under his, right above the stamp, Julia Monroe, sole owner upon spouse's death. They could steal the ring, but not the roof over my head. Ever had something taken, but refused to be erased? Tell us how you took it back. And if this hits home, subscribe for the full story. They could sell the furniture, but not the foundation. Because this house, it wasn't a symbol, it was a witness. It held the echoes of our laughter, the faint dents in the kitchen floor where we danced, the scratches from our dog's excited paws when Daniel came home from chemo. Every room knew me, knew us. So when I found out Eleanor had listed the dining table on Facebook Marketplace, I didn't argue. I didn't negotiate. I sent a message to the buyer. This item is part of a contested estate. Purchase at your own risk. I posted the same under every item, every lamp, every couch, even the stupid ceramic rooster she insisted was vintage. Suddenly, no one was buying. And that silence, that pullback, that was my justice. Not loud, not messy, just surgical. Because I wasn't fighting over chairs. I was fighting for what they thought they could erase. My place, my presence, my permanence. It's funny. They thought I'd break over a ring, but I'd already broken. At the hospital, in the car, at the front door the day the lock clicked and didn't turn. Now I was rebuilding. And it started with the deed. A rectangle of paper that told the truth louder than their smirks ever could. It said, she belongs here. Not because she screamed, not because she fought, but because he chose her. And she stayed. Let them keep the ring. I'll keep the home, and every memory they'll never understand. They thought it would be over in one hearing. Quick, clean, publicly humiliating. They showed up in pearls and perfume. Hired a lawyer who wore a tie clip shaped like a gavel. Chloe even brought a new boyfriend, a silent accessory to her imagined victory. But I didn't come to court to prove I was right. I came to watch them undo themselves. I sat quietly as their attorney opened his argument. He painted me as manipulative, as someone who took advantage of a dying man, someone who coerced Daniel into rewriting his will after alienating him from his family. He even used the phrase emotional hostage. I didn't flinch because I knew what was coming. My lawyer waited. Then, calmly, he pulled out the copy of Daniel's handwritten letter, the one I found in the desk drawer, the one labeled "in case." He read it out loud, every single word. The room went quiet. No one moved, not even Chloe. And when he got to the last line, I couldn't always protect you in life, so I tried to in paper. Something shifted. Eleanor leaned in and whispered to her lawyer. He whispered back. Whatever he said didn't sit well, because she snapped. She stood up, in the middle of the courtroom. No cue, no decorum. And she started speaking, not to the judge, not to the lawyer, but to me. Don't act like you were the only one who loved him. Her voice cracked. I raised him. I fed him. I was there when he had nothing. She looked around, realizing people were staring. She tried to soften, but you came in and turned him against us. You took him. You made him distant. I didn't reply. She kept going. You knew what you were doing. You played sweet, but you wanted the house. You wanted the inheritance. You wanted to erase us. The judge cleared his throat, told her to stop, but she didn't. Because now, she wasn't protecting Daniel's name. She was protecting her image. And the more she spoke, the more that image cracked. You were never family, she spat. You were a convenience. You were lucky he settled. That's when it happened. Her lawyer, the man with the gavel tie clip, gathered his papers, closed his folder, and without saying a word, stepped away from her table. Just walked out of the courtroom. Chloe called after him. He didn't look back. And Eleanor, she was left standing, alone, mouth open, hands shaking. The judge finally banged the gavel. Mrs. Monroe, he said, addressing me. Everything appears in order. The court recognizes your legal standing as sole beneficiary and surviving spouse. Bang. Done. But that wasn't the victory. The victory was watching Eleanor realize. No one believed her anymore. Not the lawyer, not the courtroom. Not even her own daughter, who suddenly looked ashamed. Truth isn't always proven with evidence. Sometimes it reveals itself when the mask slips and the monster underneath starts screaming. I didn't win because I fought better. I won because I stayed quiet long enough for them to tell on themselves. It came in a plain manila envelope, no return address, no note, just a sticker with my name typed in all caps, Julia Monroe. At first, I thought it was junk mail, another estate document, maybe a delayed bill or some impersonal condolence packet. But inside, a flash drive, labeled in sharp black ink, Session 9, Daniel M. My hands froze. I stared at it for a full minute before even thinking to plug it in. Session 9. I remembered. That was the week he came home with red eyes, but told me it was allergies. The night he hugged me in the kitchen and didn't let go for a full 5 minutes. That was the week he whispered, I wish you didn't have to deal with them alone. I opened my laptop, took a breath, clicked play. His voice came through, cracked, tired, but clear. Sometimes I feel like I'm being pulled in 2 directions. Like I'm not allowed to love my wife without betraying my mother. She says things like, you used to be strong before you met her. Or, she just wants what you've built. But the truth is, everything I built with Julia. I swallowed hard. They don't know about the panic attacks, about the nights I can't breathe, because I'm scared she'll leave if she sees how bad it really gets, but she never does. My mom says I'm not myself anymore, that Julia changed me, but what if I needed changing? Then silence, just breathing. And then, the part that changed everything. Chloe found my life insurance file last week. I caught her copying it. She said she was just curious. But when I asked her why she needed my social security number, she said Mom wanted it for taxes. But I don't believe her. They keep bringing up the house. What'll happen to it if I'm gone? Sometimes I wonder if they're waiting. Not grieving, waiting. And if something happens to me, please make sure Julia's safe. That was it. No dramatic music, no ending monologue, just truth, spoken softly in a small room. To someone who didn't think it would ever leave that room. But now it had. Now it was in my hands. This wasn't just therapy. This was a confession, a warning, a record, and, depending on how far I wanted to go, possibly even evidence. I called the therapist's office, spoke to her assistant. She confirmed the package was real, sent by Dr. Levine herself. After Daniel signed a release for posthumous disclosures, on the day he updated his will, she told me he wanted you to know everything. Even if it couldn't help him, maybe it could protect you. I sat there for hours. Replay, pause, rewind. Every sentence felt heavier. Not because it was shocking, but because I knew I had felt all of it, and now I had proof. If I wanted to take this further, press charges, launch an investigation, I could. Insurance fraud, premeditation, emotional abuse, coercion. The words sounded clinical, but what they really meant was they planned to profit off his death. And I had the recording to prove it, but I wasn't sure yet. Because part of me wanted peace, closure. The other part wanted something else. And as I looked down at that small flash drive, I realized I didn't have to choose yet. I could keep it, hold it. Like a final card in a poker game, I wasn't done playing. Not yet. I had every legal right to press charges: theft, defamation, trespassing, fraud. There was enough evidence to bury them in paperwork for years. Emails, sale receipts, even screenshots from resale apps. But I didn't. I didn't make the call, didn't sign the forms, didn't walk into that final meeting. Instead, I walked into a coffee shop. Chloe was already there, nervous, no makeup, no designer bag, just a sister who had seen too much and understood too little. She looked up when I approached, like someone unsure whether they're about to be hugged or hit. I slid into the seat across from her. No small talk, just the folder, just one manila envelope, unlabeled, closed with a string. Inside, the audio. Daniel's last session with his therapist. It hadn't been easy to get, but the therapist, after confirming Daniel's consent, had mailed it to me. He said Daniel wanted it to be heard if things ever got bad. And they had. Oh, they had. I watched Chloe's hands shake as she opened the folder, listened to her breath catch as she inserted the USB into her laptop. And then, we listened. Daniel's voice, calm but tired. I love them, I do. But sometimes I wonder if they love me, or just the version of me that obeys. He talked about Eleanor's control, about how Chloe copied that behavior without realizing it, how he felt like he owed his family an apology just for growing up. Julia doesn't ask me to be anything, she just lets me rest. At that, Chloe covered her mouth, not from shock, but from grief. Real, heavy, late-coming grief. When the audio ended, she didn't say anything, not for a long time. Finally, she whispered, "I didn't know." I nodded. "I believe you." She looked up. "You're not going to sue us?" I smiled. Not kindly, not coldly, just steadily. "No, but you could." I still could. Silence. And then the shift. "You're giving this to me, why?" I leaned in. "Because you deserve to know the full picture, not just the one Eleanor painted. Do whatever you want with it. Give it to her, destroy it, send it to the entire family. That's not my choice anymore." I stood up, left the coffee untouched. And as I walked out, I didn't feel victorious. I felt powerful. Because real power isn't revenge. It's not screaming in court or publishing a tell-all or burning bridges loud enough for the neighbors to hear. It's knowing the truth and choosing silence, not weakness, control. Because sometimes the best way to end a cycle is to hand someone the scissors and walk away. No threats, no drama, just a door left open with the air finally clearing. It took 3 weeks to process the paperwork, 2 more for the stone cutter to finish the design, and another 7 days before I had the courage to go see it. Daniel's new headstone, not shared, not cluttered with names he never asked to be next to, just his. When he was first buried, Eleanor had rushed the process. She called it efficiency. But it wasn't about grief. It was about control. She chose a double plot. Her name already etched beside his as if it were some foregone conclusion. Family should rest together, she said. But resting beside someone who never let him breathe in life, that wasn't rest. That was a final sentence on a life he didn't write. So I challenged it, privately, legally. And when the ruling came back in my favor, I didn't scream, didn't post about it, didn't even call Chloe. I just showed up. On a cloudy Tuesday morning, alone. The new headstone was smaller than the first, simpler, no flourishes, just 3 lines. Daniel Monroe, 1984-2024, finally at peace. No mention of beloved son, no reference to devoted brother, no list of survivors, because none of that was the point. Peace was. For the first time, he had it. And for the first time, so did I. I placed a single sunflower at the base of the stone. It was his favorite, bright, bold, honest. I sat for a while, watched a squirrel dig at the roots of a nearby tree, listened to the wind like it was humming some memory only we shared. Then I heard it, heels on gravel. Eleanor. She stopped short when she saw the stone. I didn't turn around. She stepped closer, saw the missing names, saw the absence of hers, and for the first time since the hospital, she didn't speak. She just stood there, staring, until finally she asked, "Why would you do this?" I stood, faced her, looked her in the eyes. "Because this is about him, not you, not me. Him," she scoffed. "He was my son," I nodded. "And I was his wife." She opened her mouth to respond, but couldn't find the words, because deep down she knew. Being blood doesn't always mean being family. Sometimes the people who share your name hurt you more than strangers ever could. Sometimes the people who marry and love you better than those who raised you. And sometimes letting go of a name is the first real act of loyalty. She left, didn't say goodbye, didn't even look back. And I stayed, not to gloat, not to mark territory, but to whisper, "You're finally free." Daniel's peace didn't need permission. It just needed protection. And now, he had it. Because the strength I carried wasn't about making noise. It was about holding the line when no one else would. The kind of strength my mother taught me in quiet glances and sleepless nights. The kind of strength that doesn't demand a place. It claims it with grace and fire and one final sunflower. No one knows where Julia lives now. There are rumors, of course. Someone swore they saw her in Oregon, teaching community law under a different last name. Another said she was in Italy, writing a book under a pen name no one's cracked yet. And one woman, an old friend from Daniel's side, claims Julia sends a single postcard every Christmas, never signed, never addressed to a return. But here's what we do know. The house? It's no longer a house. The deed still has her name. But the sign outside now reads, "The Monroe Center for Widow Advocacy," a former home once filled with Sunday fights and passive-aggressive brunches, now echoes with something different: strategy, strength, survival. Inside, the walls are painted soft green. There's free coffee in the front lobby, a small library in the back, filled with estate law books and hand-annotated copies of state-level inheritance statutes. On the right, a quiet room. No phones, no meetings, just space to cry without judgment. And on Tuesdays, workshops. What to say when they call you just the wife. How to read a deed without losing your mind. Grief, gaslighting, and getting what's yours. Women come in broken, confused, ashamed for feeling angry, and they leave. Angry on purpose, empowered, equipped, quiet but undeniable. Chloe volunteers once a month. No one asked her to. She just showed up, the way some people do after they've watched silence cost too much. Eleanor? She never returned. Not to the courtroom, not to the house, not even to Daniel's grave. Because there's a kind of defeat that doesn't come from losing. It comes from watching the person you tried to erase turn into something you can't touch. A movement, a center, a legacy. Julia never posted a revenge video, never wrote an op-ed, never held a press conference. She didn't need to. She turned a lockout into a launch pad, a death into a beginning, a stolen ring into a circle of protection for others just like her. And that, perhaps more than anything, was the loudest thing she never said. They thought they'd inherit a house, furniture, assets, control. What they inherited was silence, but not the weak kind. The kind that holds power like a blade behind its back. the kind that builds slow until one day it becomes a building with her name carved in stone above the door. No initials, no shared credit, just one name, Julia. Not Daniel's wife, not Eleanor's daughter-in-law, not just the widow, just Julia. And in the end, that was enough, more than enough. Because the truest revenge isn't shouting, "I told you so." It's standing so tall they have to look up just to pretend you're not there. What would you have done in her place? Quiet revenge or legal fire? Drop your thoughts. And if Julia's story lit something in you, hit subscribe.